Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Luke, and this is Paula, and we're from the Electrical Safety Delivery Team at Network Rail. We're here to introduce, are you ready to step up to electrical safety and the scheme that's going on with us? So, we need to talk about why we need to improve electrical safety on our infrastructure. I was an electrical control operator, and when you receive that emergency call about someone being injured on the overhead line, it's the most harrowing thing you can ever hear of, and it's horrible, to be honest. And these are the things that are really going to be affecting families out there. They have to live with life-changing incidents and injuries that they have to take home with them, and we all understand that's not fair. If you go to work, you should come home from work in the same state, shouldn't we, really? So let's introduce who we are and how we're going to help this. We're the Electrical Safety Delivery Team, and we're a nationwide change programme that is going to be introducing to Network Rail and also the supply chain. And we're here to basically introduce new technologies and new processes that are going to help the overhead line people and also the other disciplines work safely on or about the overhead line. We're also going to, this obviously supports everybody home safe every day. So I'm just going to introduce some technical ways that we're going to do this before Paula introduces our cultural change that we're going to introduce to help do this. So the main project that we have at the moment is a single approach to isolations project. And this is including its three disciplines. We've got the overhead line stance of it, we've got the DC stance of it, and we've also got the HV distribution stance of it. Each of these have their own separate standards that are being produced in improved processes, improved ways of working on those parts of the infrastructure. And then we also have the technological improvements, which come with the research development parts that can also help us. I don't know if you've all seen out there, we've got the blue flashing lights out there that have just been recently been introduced. These are to limit the overhead line permit limits for people. So you don't stray outside your overhead permit limits, and you also have residual electrical hazards that are things that we don't actually see as physical things that are lighting up, going to injure yourself. But if we can put a big light there that helps people understand what could really hurt them, then let's do that. So what's the best way of also saving people and keeping people away from the hazards on our infrastructure? It's making them remote, getting them away from that hazard. We have research and development projects going on with fixed roll, so fixed reminder of live exposed equipment. At the moment, the reminder of live exposed equipment is there, and people have to put them up manually. This increases boots on ballast and stuff like that, so that's what we want to get rid of. So we've got the fixed ones that are in research and development, where we can operate them autonomously. While on the subject of remote securing, we're going to go to remote securing. Remote securing is making sure that our isolations are secure and people that are working within those isolations will not be affected by inadvertent re-energisation from another source. And this is done by securing of the points of isolation. So these could be the circuit breakers, or it could be the disconnectors that are basically isolating that part of overhead line above us. We also have research development in things like e-permits, this is the slick, easy way to get permitry out to the people on the ground without having to deal with all the paper-based. We understand that human error can work and work our way into our day-to-day lives just through errors on paperwork and things like that, mislaid paperwork. Let's make it easier to understand, make it more intuitive, get it on the iPads, things like that in front of people, which it's a lot easier and it's a lot quicker. If we can get faster implementation of isolations, that allows more time for work to happen. More time to work to happen means people generally take it a lot safer and a lot slower way, rather than having to rush and try and get off track before the first train comes through. Finally, what we want to talk about is optimised earthing, which is a little bit of a work stream going on within the Single Approach to Isolations project. And there's a trial going on at Wales and West, and this is optimised earthing is, like I said, about keeping people boots off ballast. So we're going to optimise the way we earth the overhead line once we've got the isolations. By doing that, we can have earthing pantographs on RVVs and things like that, and also we can have optimised ways for earthing into substations or just where you are working. I'm going to hand over now to Paula, who's going to talk about the cultural way that we're going to help this, because we've got people out there that may need a step up in competence, because we've been working in the same way for a long period of time. Let's get that competence level to a high level. hand over to Paula. Thank you.
Hopefully I can do two things. Right, let's talk. So hopefully Luke shared with you some of the technical great items that we're putting into this particular programme, but let's not forget about the technical side. The railway is run by our people, you know, and we need to embrace and take our people through a journey of improving electrical safety. So what we've done to kind of get to this point of, you know, how do we understand where we are as an organisation with our culture, and what do we need to do to help and improve and take people on that journey. So I want to just ask you to just take a moment, and I want you to think about an organisation that you may have worked in. You may work in it now. That you've really felt like it's had a great culture. It's had, you know, you felt engaged, and you felt that it's a brilliant organisation to kind of work for. And I kind of think, what are the words that come to mind? So if I think about an organisation that has a great culture, I think about the fact that they care for me. I feel like I'm rewarded. I feel like I've got a voice. I feel like I am recognised for what I do. I give it that discretionary effort. But most of all, I as an individual feel like I'm safe while I'm there. Paula's safe. She's going to go home to her family, and every day that she goes in, she is going to go home to her family, and I think that's really important. I'm a mum of a train driver, so I'm really passionate about this subject. So it's really important that we allow people to feel that way, and how do we allow people to feel that way? So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So sadly, we have had 4 electrical safety incidents since 2018. If you look at Goddington and if you look at Kensal Green, they happened at Christmas. Can you imagine taking that phone call that one of your family members has been seriously injured? Both incidents, unfortunately, employees sustained life-changing injuries. I think we'll all agree that it's not fair that anybody that goes to work in this great organisation that is the railway doesn't go home safe every day. So when I took this task on to kind of understand where we are with the culture, it was really important to me to kind of get that whole employee voice. And in order to do that, we went out into the business, both in Network Rail, but I also wanted to understand where we were with our kind of tier 1 and tier 2 contractors, because we're a railway family, and I think we wanted to keep everybody safe within this piece of work. So we went out into the business, and I'm going to flick onto my research page because I do like to talk. So we went out into the business, and we decided that we were going to take a snapshot of the business, and we were going to interview around 60 industry representatives. They came from both, like I said, they came from both Network Rail, and they came from various tier 1 and tier 2 contractors. I'd booked kind of an hour session with all the people that we interviewed. Some sessions lasted an hour, some sessions went on for nearly 2 hours. What we wanted to kind of understand out of these sessions is, where did they feel the culture was in Network Rail? Where were their desired place to be with culture? And what do they think that some of the blockers were in order for us to be able to ensure that we live and breathe our vision of everyone home safe every day? So we interviewed, we collated all this information, we submitted a summary report, and out of the report came our 9 pillars of change. This is kind of a real simple approach. So what we managed to do was categorise all of the areas that were flagged up as concerns. And you will see one of the highest areas being culture and behaviours, and one of the highest areas being training and development. But I'm a firm believer in, if you're going to change a culture or improve a culture or work on a culture, you have to embed it into your whole employee life cycle. So that's why you will see throughout this page there are things like accountability and leadership. There are things like communication and how we communicate to people. So within electrical safety and the culture program that we are working on, we will work on all of the 9 pillars of change. I particularly will focus on the culture and behaviours, but I'll work alongside Luke and how we integrate the 9 pillars into the changes that we're trying to achieve. So, out of that report came the 9 pillars of change. Out of the 9 pillars of change came a strategy. So we have a electrical safety culture strategy. Within that culture strategy, it has incremental changes. And the reason why we've took the decision to do incremental changes is because if we overload people, then it's too much for them to be able to cope with. So what we've tried to do is say, okay, what short-term measures can we take, what longer-term measures, and what is our aspiration long-term? So some of the things that we've started to implement, we've got a dedicated page on Safety Central. We've launched Choose to Challenge, and I'll come back to that in a moment. We've also about to launch an electrical safety step-up, where we're going to take everyone out of the business that's involved in electrical safety, and we're going to take them through I want to say human factors, but it's actually a session where we will talk about culture and behaviours. We're going to build some toolkits to help line managers to be able to support this change. We're also going to look at some of the training material, particularly around some of the language that we use, particularly about how we make sure that what we're asking people to do, they really understand, and they understand the purpose of why we're asking them to do what we're asking them to do. So we might change some of the language, and we might simplify some of the things that we're doing. So these are kind of some of the priorities that we're doing. And if I come back to Choose to Challenge. So Choose to Challenge, we launched in Network Rail around electrical safety, and the reason why we launched Choose to Challenge is, if we go back to the incidents, and I think you spoke about it earlier on with Cyrus, so I'm a big advocate for Cyrus. I believe in every organisation everybody should have a voice, okay, and everybody should be able to have their voice and be comfortable in sharing how they feel about the organisation that they, in a respectful way. What we found with the incidents and what we found with some of the analysis that we have done is that we've got some great procedures to allow people to stop work when they feel unsafe, but they're not using them as much as we would like them to use. So what we've said and we've been really, really open about this, and we've used our people to tell these stories. So I would encourage you all to scan the Q code, because it will take you to the stories. So what we're looking to do with Choose to Challenge is allow people to be able to just have that conversation. I don't feel safe about this. Something isn't right with this paperwork. You're asking me to do something I don't feel I'm qualified to do. So what we are doing is being real advocates to say, we want to hear your voice. We launched with Gary's story, which is on the page. We got 17,000 views of that story. It's a really powerful story. And what we are starting to see now is kind of the strapline being used quite regularly, so it's kind of really powerful. The poster have been designed so we had some apprentices in, so they've designed some of the posters as well, because we wanted to make it, I don't know, a little less corporate, if that makes sense, but it is kind of corporate. So everything that we do, we've kind of logoed it up, and you can, and the language that we've used as well, we're kind of really reaching out to particularly the frontline employees as well. So, and then next, I've nearly done it. So we're nearly at a point now where we will launch our electrical safety step-up. 60-minute session. We're working with the Tier 1 and Tier 2 contractors as well. It's an interactive session. We will have various sessions, and in the various sessions that we will be having, we'll have opportunities to have open and honest discussions. Sorry, thank you. Open and honest discussions. This for me is kind of like a kind of real investment that the team have been put into. So we'll be able to tell, and we've used a really great creative agent to help us tell the stories that we're telling in there. We opened the story up with, unfortunately, a gentleman that was badly burnt with 25,000 volts. And he talks about the effects that it has had on him and obviously his family. So, it's a very human approach to how we're going to take people through this change. And finally, there are some of my gentlemen that feature in the Step Up campaign. Why are we doing this? I think ultimately we want to be able to be in a position where everyone does go home safely every day and that they feel part of the changes that the technical changes that we're making, but also that they have a voice in the organisation. And for us, this is kind of really important. We can't have another Christmas where somebody has been injured. And it's a journey for us. The strategy has been set. It's a 2-year strategy. We review it every 6 months to check that we're kind of on the right path. So thank you for listening to us.